Welcome to Locked On Colts, as Jake and I are going to give you the perfect roadmap to this offseason for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network around. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I'm joined, as always, by Jake Arthur, our boots on the ground over at Round Table Sports. Apparently, from my tweeting the other day, Jake, you were really boots on the ground this past season in that cornerback room. I'm glad people understood that joke. I put it out there. But guys, we have done individual episodes diving into trade candidates, potential free agents in-house and outside of the house to target, and just so many different aspects of this Colts offseason. So now, even though this is still January, there's still a lot of offseason left in front of us. Jake and I are going to give you our early roadmap on how we would attack this offseason for the Colts. We're going to go over some of the assets that the Colts have and how they can gain even more assets through trades or freeing up cap space through cuts and releases and extensions. Then we are going to pivot and talk about the free agency approach, how Jake and I would each like to approach this free agency period with, again, as of right now, pretty limited cap space, but again, the Colts can open some up. And then our targets in the draft. Now, this is not going to be a complete list on, in detail scouting reports on 500 players or anything like that, but more so the type of players that we would like to see the Colts go after in the draft and where we'd like to see the focus be come draft time for this Colts team. So, Jake, let's start off with an overview of the assets. We have had so much different information when it comes to how much cap space the Colts have. Over the cap at one point had them at $40-something million projected. As of right now, it says $26.9 million in cap space. Who knows right now? So somewhere between $25 and $40 million in cap space as of right now. That's not a ton of money when you consider the fact that Daniel Jones is probably going to eat up almost all of that with his contract. And then you have to have the Alec Pierce contract on top of that with $25 million as well. So, Jake, the Colts got to find ways to make cap space this offseason because they just don't have enough for all the things they need to do as of right now.
Yeah, and if they really do have this urgency in the building to get better, then they have no choice but to look at some of these big veteran contracts that maybe were appealing a year or two ago, but at this point, they look like opportunities to cut bait and create more cap space. It's not a ton of guys you can't really live without. We've talked a million times about Michael Pittman Jr., which to this point makes me feel like nothing at all will happen with him, and he'll be a $29 million cap hit next year.
Look, I will say this. If that's the case, then this Colts team is not serious about winning next year.
Exactly.
That's just what it is.
We're going to find out a lot about how serious Chris Ballard and the front office really is this offseason because they cannot get around it. We've got some cap figures here of how much they'll save in the ballpark, how much they save. So, again, this doesn't mean straight up cut, but like trades are a possibility. Extensions are a possibility. We've seen them rework the deals of like Braden Smith, Kenny Moore, extend DeForest Buckner to create more room. But Michael Pittman Jr., when you take away his cap hit and his dead cap, $24 million savings, only $1.9 million for Mooney Ward. That's just something up for them to do. That's not something you would necessarily set out to do. But if he retires, then it gets kind of interesting about what the team will pick up and what they won't.
I will say with Mooney Ward, if he does retire, you can designate it as a post-June 1st retirement and split the cap over the next 2 seasons. So they would save $10 million over this season, but they would accrue $10 more million over next season. So that's a way you can push it to the future to have more freedom for this offseason. Again, some people might disagree because we think we might be in a rebuild after this offseason, but still, that's one way to free up more cap space for this year. So there are some ways they can play with Mooney Ward's money if he does retire. But as of right now, him retiring, and if they don't touch that contract, they don't really get much savings whatsoever.
Yeah, that one's a real small figure. Grover Stewart, $12.2 million. Kenny Moore, $7 million. Zaire Franklin, $5.8 million. And a real interesting one is Anthony Richardson because he's still on his first-round rookie deal, which is always fully guaranteed. It is a $10.8 million cap hit for next year. But if you trade him, there are things you can agree with the other team of how you're going to kind of split the pie. Why don't you go ahead and kind of explain the way those two sides try and hammer that out?
Yeah, I think the best way that I think about this, and I could be wrong, listeners can definitely call me out if I'm wrong here, but I believe the roster bonus we picked up by the other squad, which would be around $4 to $5 million. So the Colts would still be on the hook for the guaranteed salary, but I believe the roster bonus would be on the new team acquiring Anthony Richardson if the Colts were to trade him this offseason. So that's a way they can still free up about half of that guaranteed money. I believe that's the max is what they could get back for that, but I'm going to leave full cap analysis to Kyle Raposa and all the other, what's his name, Brad Spielberger, who used to work for Pro Football Focus. Those are the guys I usually rely on when it comes to cap analysis, but I believe that's how it would work with the rookie deal trade right there.
Yeah, so it can get complicated with a couple of these, but those are the ones I look at and they feel the most likely to not go into the season the same as they are projected right now. So you look at draft picks as well. Right now, after compensatory picks are added after the combine and around the league meeting at the end of March, Colts are looking at about 7 picks, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 7ths. They did trade away their original 6th from Mekhi Blackman last summer. And then so they'll add a 7th in comp, and then they'll get that 6th in comp. So they still won't have the first, but they're projected at that 47th overall pick. So they do still have a pick in the top 50. And then really the only way I see them adding picks is by taking some of those aforementioned players and seeing if you can get a day 3 pick out of them. I don't know that you get anything more than a day 3 pick for any of those guys, unfortunately. You're looking at around 4 at best, I would say.
Yeah. So Jake, we've done a lot of speculation on all this offseason. So let's give our firm thoughts as of right now when it comes to the offseason. Again, this could change with more information coming and all that throughout the offseason, but best ways to open up cap space, and I'm just going to give my opinion and then you can agree, disagree, or add on to it. First one, the best way to open up cap space is extending Quentin Nelson. I think we're both in agreement there. Yeah. You can free up anywhere between $7 to $20 million, depending on how you structure that contract. Now, if you want to open up like $20 million, you can push that cap hit crazy into the back end of the deal, which might not be the smartest thing, but the Colts can open up a lot of cap space with Quentin Nelson extension. But the biggest one I think that could be open for debate is, again, there's $24 million available for the taking for cap space on Michael Pittman Jr.'s contract. I am of the opinion of trading him this offseason. I wouldn't extend, I wouldn't restructure, because then you're just pushing it down the line. And I would just try to go more a committee approach to replace his production in the offense. But Jake, what say you? Would you say your best offer on the board was a 5th round pick from like Buffalo or Vegas for him? Would you take that 5th round pick, or would you try to extend Pittman and keep him around?
I do think a 5th is too low, because it is a receiver that can get you 80 and 1,000. You know what I mean?
But Amari Cooper, remember, got a 5th round pick coming from Dallas to.
That's right. That's crazy.
Because remember, you're not trading for player, you're trading for contract. And you're trading for a $24 million cap hit over one season.
Yeah, and you have to unload that.
Yeah.
You can't. I guess I hate it because he's better than a 5th round pick.
Right.
But yeah, I guess so, because you can't go into this year with $2 zillion receivers. This is not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins with Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. And you have to bring back Alec Pierce. You just do. You're bringing back Daniel Jones. Pierce has become your best receiver, your most dangerous playmaker, because that's even over Jonathan Taylor, who we saw in the second half of the year faded. It's not all his issue, but he's dependent on that offensive line, obviously. Alec Pierce made plays regardless of the circumstance. So yeah, I don't think you could bring back Alec Pierce north of $20 million per year, which he's certainly going to do, and have Pittman making what he's making. So I guess I'd take a 5th. That hurts, but yeah.
Yeah, and then as of right now, I think we're both in agreement of trading Richardson as well, which would probably net you like a 5th or a 6th as well. So where we're at currently with our projection, we're running out of time in the first segment, so I'm going to get this all in, is around 9 draft picks, no Pittman, no Richardson, and Nelson extended, and we freed up upwards of $40-something million in cap space. When it comes to the rest of the contracts that you put on here, I wouldn't touch Grover's, I wouldn't touch Kenny's. and I would cut Zaire Franklin to get another 5.8 back. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I'm in lockstep with you there. Would not touch Grover or Kenny especially.
Yeah, Kenny is just hard to touch right now because of the restructure they did midseason.
Yeah, they already did that.
It's really hard to do that one. Grover, too good a player. I'm perfectly fine with what he's making. So roughly with our roadmap that we're giving right here, we freed up around $50 million in cap space, got 2 more draft picks back from Richardson and Pittman, and extended Quentin Nelson and cut Zaire Franklin. I think that's just more for the morale of all the fans right now listening. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about our free agency approach now that in our hypothetical here, the Colts are working with close to $80 million in cap space. And what can they do with that? And who in-house should they prioritize? And who on the open market should the Colts prioritize to make this team better?
All right, kicking off the year feeling good is always the goal, right? You know, everyone tries to make their New Year's resolutions, and it's usually health-based. Honestly, hydration seems to be the easiest one. A lot of people just simply say they want to drink more water or just be hydrated in general. But when I stay on top of all that, my energy, focus, and the mood all level up. But let's be real, plain water doesn't always cut it. It can be boring, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. But that's where DripDrop comes in. It's doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work together. Just think about clearer focus, better energy, an elevated mood, and even that fresh skin glow. See? Got it all going right here. I've been using DripDrop as part of my daily routine, hydration king here. Every morning, take your medicine, drop a DripDrop. I like the peach flavor. They've also got, on top of 16 original flavors, they've got 0 sugar options as well, which is another key one for me too. Because, I'm a bigger guy. You got to kind of find wins where you can. So 0 sugar is a good option. DripDrop's science-backed formula is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro teams because it rehydrates you faster and more effectively than just water alone. They have flexible subscription options, so you're never stuck without it, whether you're hitting the gym, juggling work, or just staying consistent with your goals. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off of your first order. So go to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL.
And guys, what if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involve significant risk and are not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. And thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Clubs. You can catch our audio ad-free and get an invite to members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of our shows. Jake and I have been in there a lot the last couple of days, actually talking with a lot of the Everydayers. So definitely check that out at lockedoncolts.supercast.com or join or even gift a subscription. Now, Jake, we're getting into our roadmap for the offseason. We talked about ways to free up cap space, contracts we potentially touch, ways to get the draft picks from 7 up to around 9 or so for this Colts team. Now we have to look at free agency, which is the next step in the offseason program. And let's start with re-sign over guys that we would let walk. Re-sign, the 2 big ones are obviously Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. Of the $80-something million that we had in space, these guys could potentially take up $65 million of that.
Of it, yeah.
Now, there are ways to mess with those contracts. With Jones, you could lower the year 1 cap hit and have a lot of signing bonus to just bring that first year cap number down. Now, that would make years 2 and 3 a lot more expensive, but Again, if you're trying to win in 2026, that's a move you make. You can do the same thing with Alec Pierce. If you give him a 3 to 4 year contract, you can lower the year one cap hit like they did with Michael Pittman Jr.'s contract, which is why he has a $29 million cap hit this season and why he's on the move potentially. So there are ways to make that cap hit anywhere between 30 to 60 million instead of definitely going to be 60 something million. But Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce are the top priorities for the Colts. Chris Ballard said as much in his end of season presser, and I don't expect either of those guys to go anywhere. But what do you think, Jake? I think that's going to be the first thing the Colts get done.
Yeah, that's the only two guys I see where it's like you can't go into the season not having them locked up. Yeah. Number one, if you somehow find a way to fumble Jones, you go into next season with your pants down because you don't have a quarterback who it's early in the offseason, but you're already putting all your chips
Tom
in that
Brady,
basket.
Riley Leonard is still on the roster, so they
settle down.
Real quick though, Shane Gregory in our comments here says, "Do you think they would franchise tag Alec Pierce?" I think it could come down to that if they can't agree to a deal. I could certainly see that being an option for the Colts, but I do think both those guys will be back. You also have Neville Gallimore on the re-sign list. Mo Alley Cox, I would actually put on the re-sign list as well, even though you have him on the considered list, but it's not like a deal breaker for me bringing back Mo or not. Like I'd prefer to have him back, but it's whatever. And then I think guys like Nick Cross and even Braden Smith to a degree, just depending on what his market is, those are kind of guys you consider bringing back. But again, if we're talking kind of limited cap space, they want to get younger and faster on defense at all three levels. You want to have space for outside free agents. And I don't know if Nick Cross making $15 million a year is a way to do that, or Braden Smith making $15 to $20 million per year. So gun to my head, I would say get Daniel Jones, get Alec Pierce back, give a total of $5 million a year to Gallimore and Alley Cox combined to bring them back. But everyone else, Jake, I'm kind of okay with letting them walk.
Yeah, this is just one where I know Chris Ballard and the Colts prioritize their own guys a lot. Even last year when they said they were going to let a lot of guys walk, I'd take it a step further this offseason. And again, you have to have the money to pay other guys, serious players. You know who all these guys are. You like Nick Cross is probably the only one who is like still an ascending player, you could say. But it's kind of the argument with receiver. Cam Bynum is already a safety on your roster making big money. You can't match that money with another safety. That doesn't make sense. No team in the NFL does that unless you're like the Lions with 2 all-pro level safeties. You know what I mean? You just can't do that. So Cross, as much as I really like him, and I like to reward the draft and develop slow burn things, if it's like 15 million, you just can't do it. Like, you never know what the safety market's going to be, because some years it's terrible, and some years, what's his name? We talked about him a lot, but last year, what was it, like 17 million?
Trayvon Moore, who got
Trayvon Moore,
and
there's no reason that
Holland and the Giants got like 17 million, and Xavier McKinney got like 18. Bynum got it just depends on where because like Andre Sisco, a young safety who hit the market last offseason, only got like 4 million from the Jets, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird, but if they view him like Moore, which Cross is only 24 years old, I think they're going to view him better like that.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be like 15 million he gets per year, and I can't go that high for him.
It's too much. It's in the same way you didn't want to lose Will Fries or even Dayo Adengbo, but you just get priced out at some point. So let's go over some outside guys that you might consider going after. I've got kind of a laundry list here. The ones I'm most serious about, I guess, Jalen Watson, the corner from the Chiefs, because the Mooney Ward stuff, I'm worried about it. Like, the guy already said that if he gets another concussion, he's probably going to retire. So even if he makes it into the season with you, every time he takes a big hit, you're going to be kind of holding your breath. So him or Jamel Dean, I would be big on bringing another corner in there. Alohi Gilman or Andre Sisco, who you just mentioned, to replace Nick Cross if Cross does leave. And then obviously edge rushers. There's some subtle guys in there. Adafi Owe, Jalen Phillips. Phillips isn't really subtle, but he's gonna make a big payday. And then a veteran offensive lineman with at least a handful of starts and some position flexibility. Jamari Sawyer from I think the Chargers is a good example. I still have to dig in on some other guys.
You
Got to
want
get
a
a.
Chargers offensive lineman coming in here, Jake? You want a
You see, that's the,
Chargers?
I don't want him. I don't want him starting. I want him to have starting experience. Is the thing.
I actually love Jamari Sawyer coming out, but
Yeah.
I think I comped him to Matt Pryor, so maybe I don't love
Uh-oh.
him. Maybe I don't. But I do agree with you. I think the only place that you and I would disagree here is I don't want to spend big at corner. Like I'm fine with getting an outside corner in here.
Mhm.
I think Watson and Dean are going to cost a good chunk of money this
Yeah.
offseason. Especially Watson. He's still fairly young. He's won Super Bowls, big, lengthy corner. I think he's going to get like 10 to 15 plus per
Probably.
year. And I don't want to pay that much when you have Wally coming back and you still have already are. I mean, you're still paying the Mooney Ward contract. You're paying a lot of money at corner this offseason. So I'm cool with like whatever Christian Fulton got from the Chiefs last year, right? Like a 1 year, like $2 million deal corner, just to get more veteran experience in here. But I'm with you when it comes to they have to make a splash at edge. There has to be a move at edge. Maybe you don't go as high as Jalen Phillips because the guy with multiple leg injuries and giving him $20+ million per year, I don't want to touch that. Or
He's
Trey
got an
Hendrickson.
Achilles. He's perfect.
Yeah. Trey Hendrickson, who is probably going to get like $30 million per year on the open market, and he's 31 and he barely played this past year. But getting an Arnold Ebiketie for like 10 to 15, getting Odafe Owe for 10 to 15, I'd be all for those type of moves for the Colts. I think those are the type of guys that they need on this defense. So if we're giving like our perfect roadmap here, like go get me an Ebiketie or an Owe. This is in my opinion here. Take a shot on a linebacker like a Nakobe Dean type. I know he's had injuries, but good player when he's played. And then just round out the bottom of the roster with your Neville Gallimore level signings. I think that's how I would approach free agency. Get younger, get faster, get some impressive players from outside, but don't break the bank for like a Trey Hendrickson. I just don't need more guys on IR making big cap hits this next season.
That's fair.
Yeah, go get me an Ebiketie, go get me an Odafe Owe, get me some, even like a Cisco, I think could be a fine player, at safety. I'd prefer those types than like a Hendrickson or, Jalen Phillips I wouldn't hate, but like I'm scared of the leg injury. You guys know me with Achilles injuries. It's just my brand at this point. It's almost as big a brand as my kicker hatred.
I am finding that like I think they need to spend in free agency, but I am a little picky as well. Like it's not like a terrific free agency year. And our guy Shane Gregory here actually, he did say, don't forget if you lose Michael Pittman, they need a receiver. I'm not going in free agency for that.
I'm never signing a free agent receiver. I will never sign a free agent
too expensive.
Receiver.
No thanks.
You can always find one in the draft. There's 1,000 of them every single draft. Just go. I'm not saying you can find a guy to replace 800 yards, but find a guy who can split time with Doolin and Downs to get you that production in the aggregate. I think you can do there. Right. Yeah. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft. Now, again, Jake and I are not full draft nicks right now, so we don't know every single player in this upcoming draft. We're going to talk about like the types of players we're looking for. And I am still a bit of a draft nerd. I do have a handful of players that I am capable of talking about here in just a second.
FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. So each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and then see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whatever they may be, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks and then apply your profit boost to get even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts the post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If we need to hire someone for this show, we go straight to Indeed and be very, very specific about what we need from real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Sponsored job, boost your post to people who are best matched for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posts directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a higher than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Alrighty, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back talking about our perfect roadmap to the offseason. So to summarize kind of where we're at so far, at the beginning of the show, we talked about ways to create more cap space and also bring in a couple more draft picks this offseason. And we didn't go full Madden where it's like trade Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson and get all the top 5 picks in the draft. Right. We were trying to be realistic with it. So moving a contract like Pittman's for a day 3 pick, moving Anthony Richardson for a day 3 pick, and then making a couple tough cuts here and there to open up some cap space, bring back Alec Pierce, bring back Daniel Jones, target a high-profile edge rusher in free agency along with some minor signings. Now we're looking at the draft, and Jake, outside of maybe a receiver in like the middle rounds and maybe potentially bolstering the offensive line depth, I think you and I are in full agreement that this is going to be a defensive-heavy draft for the Colts. They want to get younger, they want to get faster, and they need impact players on that side of the ball. Before I give the floor to you on some of the guys that you put on here and some guys that you want to talk about at least briefly, I think for me, I want the focus this draft season to be more so on guys who can produce and be productive players in year one. You know, we've seen a lot with Chris Ballard taking these project players and taking younger players that have not really produced early. They haven't produced until the end of the rookie contracts. I more so want guys who are ready to go right now. So like some of my favorite players, like the Lee Hunters in this draft, D'Angelo Pons, if he's even there at 47, like that guy's ready to go now, even though he's smaller. Josiah Trotter, I think, is ready to go right now. Those are the type of guys I want to target in this draft, not this 3 to 4 year project player, even though I love project players because when they hit like an Alec Pierce, but like the Colts need production in 2026. That doesn't mean go get a 30-year-old pass rusher in the draft. There are a couple like that, but it does mean get a player that's more ready to go right now and produce for your team in year one.
Without question. And Chris Ballard has mentioned before, there's always kind of an internal struggle between the coaching staff and the front and like the personnel team, where the personnel is always looking like long-term. Like, sure, this guy could help quickly, but like, what's he look like in 2-3 years? Whereas the coaching staff wants immediate help. And if you're looking at the defensive side of the ball, especially with a coordinator like Lou Anarumo, you're going to do what he says. You have to. Like, you need these guys on the field. So you need Lou to handpick these guys. His favorites have to be top of your draft board.
Or at least be a big part of it. Like, be hand in hand with it. You know, it can't just be, I like this type of corner, and Lou's like, no, I like this type of corner. Then you give him your type, and he's like, I'm not playing that guy. He doesn't fit. Yeah, you know, it has to be in hand.
Yeah, you find yourself having to just like, you're in a hole and you have to fix it. And that's how you get Xavier Howard. And so like that obviously cannot happen. So we're both, of the thinking that the front 7 is just paramount here. So, guys who are explosive with still adequate size, it's not deal breaker size that I think could really work here. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, Zion Young from Missouri, and then you've got, Akeem Mesidor, a nice little national championship darling from Monday night out of there from Miami. Yeah, you need explosive, fast pass rushers that you're looking for that can contribute right away. And those are some guys who I think, at least as designated pass rushers, you could get them on the field quickly.
Yeah. Now, do we want Chris Ballard to add to his graveyard of pass rushers, though, is the real question. Because it seems like whatever he touches to, what's the saying? Like, everything you touch turns to gold. Whatever he touches rots at edge rusher. Like, whatever, it could be the greatest player ever. But whatever he touches at edge rusher, it kind of rots. So when it comes to like pick 47, for instance, and you want a right now impact player, I'm looking at linebacker. Linebacker is really where I want that impact player. Player like CJ Allen you have on here. Josiah Trotter I already mentioned is a player I really like out of Missouri. Just a fast, instinctive linebacker that fits kind of what the Colts need at the middle of the field. That's more so where I want to go early. If they can get if a guy like Mesidor is there at 47, I think you turn that card in. Even though he's older than Nick Cross, he's a very good player. Get him in here. Yeah,
Yeah.
who cares at that point? He can produce in day one for you. But unless that happens, I don't need another project off the edge that Ballard's going to be wrong with. Like, get me a linebacker that can turn and run and cover the middle of the field. And like, we saw the impact of middle of the field linebackers for some of these best defenses in football this year. Get me a guy like that, and I think this Colts defense can be in a much better place next season.
Yeah, the middle of the field for the Colts defense last year, they were clearly helpless at times. Offenses knew where to attack, and you just have to be prepared for that now. So, CJ Allen out of Georgia, obviously, Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas, Jake Golday from Cincinnati, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. He's got kind of a cult following. And then Josiah Trotter, like you mentioned. These are guys that can go sideline to sideline, and they're not going to be victims over the middle of the field. If they have to turn and burn and like chase guys on in breaking routes, I think they can handle that. You know what I mean? It's something the Colts clearly struggled at with their 28 to 30-year-old slower linebackers last year, and you just can't have that. I think the Colts got a real big dose of medicine last year where they downplayed the necessity for their linebacker group to be as good, and as a result, they saw that it was a real detriment. So like they can't just pass it off as like a low priority. Like it can become a strength if you just allow it to be and put some resources into it.
Yeah, and then one more thing is, like, obviously if there's a chance to get more corners for sure because of the depth was really tested last year, but for me, I want another playmaking corner or playmaking safety back there on that
Mhm.
defense. Nick Cross, a good thumper, a good box safety, and if you bring him back, I still want to draft another playmaking safety because Rodney
Yeah.
Thomas, when he was out there this past year, wasn't bad, but he's not making a play on the football. He's not instinctively like, jumping a route or anything like that. He's just kind of going to be in the right spot, and that's kind of the end of the day. I want another playmaker on this defense, and one guy that I really like is Genesis Smith from Arizona. Can play over the top, forced a lot of fumbles this past year as well. Just a guy who gets his hand on the football and takes the football away. And I think pairing a player like that with Cameron Bynum to make it less, who's going to be the deep safety, who's going to be the middle of the field, or like the robber or the guy who comes in the box, just add a little element to that disguise. I think a player like Genesis Smith can make a lot of sense. And even if you do bring back Nick Cross for like a 1 or 2 year deal, Genesis Smith can make a lot of sense as that third safety, which was a big role this past season with Rodney Thomas. So I want another playmaker on this defense. And I think the best way to do that is with a safety. You look down at like Houston, for instance, and Kalen Bullock and Jalen Petrie were so great at just being instinctive players that took away the football or knocked the ball away from opposing players. And just the asset that it is with having two safeties that can do that stuff, it makes a world of difference for your team. So getting a player like Genesis Smith from Arizona, I think, is a really good pairing with Cameron Bynum. It allows Bynum to be more of an all-around safety than just a deep safety, and you can open up his playmaking more in the middle of the field as well. So just add playmakers, man. Like D'Angelo Pons, we talked about so much last night. I didn't want to give too much, but like if you can get a D'Angelo Pons, like that's a playmaker. I don't care where you're putting him. He's a playmaker. Get him on the football field. Like give me guys who can take the football away and make plays on the ball, and we can worry about position value after that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we talked about in the free agency portion, if you don't feel like you can spend really at corner very much, obviously you want to draft someone. A guy like Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, I think would be a good one. We mentioned Pons, obviously. Don't care about the size. The dude is a magnet for the ball. But then if we're talking about safety, one thing I think I know about Lou Anarumo now is if he can get a safety out there that can wear a lot of different hats and allows you versatility. And, we mentioned this with Tyler Warren last year. You can just keep the guy on the field and you don't have to make a bunch of substitutions because the more you can do, the more value it brings. And so Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo and Dylan Tianeman from Oregon, a couple guys who you can move around a little bit, and they're well-rounded. They're decent in coverage. They can make plays like you mentioned, but they're also not necessarily going to shy away from contact, and they can come up and be physical in the box as well. So I think this draft, from what we've seen this early in the process, like the Senior Bowl still next week, it's kind of strong in what the Colts need on defense if they just lean into what we know they need.
Yeah, I could be mistaken here. I think McNeil Warren from Toledo is like a freaky athlete type
Yeah.
player. And I want the Colts to have their Nick Amenwari type player. I'm so
Yes.
jealous of
Because
what the Seahawks have.
he actually hit last year. We kind of questioned whether or not he would hit, and he did.
But just a player that you can line up in the box, that you can line up at deep safety, you can put him in the slot, like just a freak athlete who just makes plays on the football. Like McNeil Warren, I need to do more watching of him, but from everything I've heard, he kind of fits the mold I'm looking for as well. So that's a good shout there, Jake. But that's what we have for today, guys. That's our long form roadmap for the Colts offseason. We'll be more specific in the future as we learn more about this free agent class and learn more about this draft class. But as of right now, there's some cuts and trades to make to open up some cap space early, target a big name edge rusher in free agency, and then in the draft, speed, and playmaking on defense. That's the way that Jake and I would attack this Colts offseason. But let us know in the comment section below what you think. And thanks again for tuning in today to Locked On Colts. We'll be back again tomorrow afternoon. So make sure that you subscribe and follow Locked On Colts so you get all the latest episodes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Colts ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and much more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club today. And again, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.